It's real breakfast hours. Eat breakfast if you up. Today's breakfast is...
I had some leftover Chinese food, so I had a crab ragoon, a chicken finger, some fried rice, pork fried rice, and some lo mein. Oh, and one of those like beef stick things.
Nice. I had a 3-egg omelet with American cheese, some leftover ribs that I chopped up and put in there, and some black olives. Hello.
Welcome back.
Real breakfast hours number 10.
10.
Woo! Some lens flares, something like
Explosion.
like those videos you used to make on like your iPhone 4 where like missiles and stuff would come in.
Yeah, that's gotta be the intro to this one.
Like a car crash, some missiles exploding, bomb sirens going off, fireworks.
I think it's gonna be good. Yeah, I mean, who would have thought we'd make it this far, huh?
Me.
Not me. Oh, okay.
Look at us. Hey, look at us. Look at us. Huh? Who would have thought? Not me.
Okay.
I did. I knew.
I was trying to do the little meme thing, but that's okay. Anyways, double digits. Feels so good.
Can't count on my hands anymore. Have to hit one of these and number 11. I don't know.
Yeah, so pretty exciting. Thank you everyone for continuing to watch. And
your support means a lot.
Yeah, and all the whenever we get feedback, we love it. Little comments or when you react to things. So keep it up, and we're gonna keep this up.
I got a text from a viewer, one of my family members who watches, and she was like, "Finally got around to watching your most recent episode of Real Breakfast Hours." The nerve of some people. Commenting on the gym thing that we talked about last time. She was like, absurd. I agree.
So, well, let's not forget our roots, I should say. Let's give the shout outs for who sent in breakfast.
Yes, very important. You want to go first?
Sure. So one of my classmates, Fred, he sent in his breakfast. He put in some extra work on this from what I can hear.
That's embarrassing because it doesn't look like...
Well, I think sometimes I can't remember what he said. I feel like he said that sometimes he just has an English muffin, but this time he put jelly on it.
Ooh. Wow.
Or maybe I misinterpreted.
Or maybe he just doesn't eat breakfast normally, so having breakfast at all is going out of his way.
But yeah, so he's got an Oikos Pro. 20 gram protein. It's a yogurt.
Oh, it's a peach flavor. I was trying to see if it was an apple or something.
Yeah. It's a good amount of protein for some yogurt.
I'm a man of yogurt myself. Do you want me to say the whole thing?
Yeah.
As a man of yogurt, I don't know how to keep my tummy full without ruining Din Din.
I just thought you were going to give feedback on the yogurt.
Well, I'm only looking at... I've never had an Oikos Pro before.
Oh, maybe you should try.
He's got the lid on it still in the picture, so I can't really tell you the quality of the yogurt.
Oh, maybe we'll have to buy some. You can give your review of the Oikos Pro.
Not a huge peach fan either, really. So
I like peach. I'm not a huge yogurt person. It upsets my tummy.
Not a yogurt enjoyer.
I'm not a yogurt enjoyer. My mom really likes yogurt, or at least when I was growing up, she would always have one of those Yoplait things in the fridge. And I would try them, and I would be like, it's not for me, it's too bitter. But then, even as I have aged, and I was like, okay, maybe I can deal with the flavor, but my tummy doesn't like it.
I don't know if I've ever heard anybody call yogurt bitter before.
It's bitter. I don't know.
Dark chocolate and coffee are bitter. Yogurt doesn't taste that way.
It tastes bitter in a different way. It's not sweet. It should be sweet, but there's an edge to it that's awful.
It's creamy.
That's good. No, I've had creamy things. It's no ice cream, okay?
Her taste buds are clearly malfunctioning.
Actually, I'm actually a super taster, and that's why I pick up on these nuances that you don't.
No, it's called being picky. It's different.
It's the same thing in my eyes. Fellow super tasters out there know what I'm saying.
Calling yourself a super taster is the most pretentious thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, you missed. I
did. Yeah. I didn't see that, but I was imagining that you had done that. It's like being a sommelier. Whenever we drink wine, I always pretend I'm some sommelier, and you absolutely can determine the notes in the year. It was a late harvest. Is that hints of apricot I'm getting? Yes, that's real, but your average person who's just getting a glass of wine has no business I even pretend I can hear it sometimes. I'm like, it listens like a red. Like, obviously nonsense. So calling yourself a super taster sounds like that.
Except for, I obviously have, like, my taste buds are on a different level. I don't know what to tell you. Like, they'd be detecting things that you could only imagine.
No, it's not even true.
It is true. And, well, whether or not I'm a super taster, we don't know. There's a kit that you can get to try that, I guess, to, like, there's, like, you detect different things. But it is a thing. And I think I have it.
You know, well, I would say I'm reserving judgment, but I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm
I know
judging.
you're judging. And it looks like it's either whole grain or whole wheat. I honestly don't know the difference. Do you know the difference between whole wheat and whole grain?
I'd have to Google it.
I don't know, but it's one of those two because it's like brown.
Well,
and it's an English muffin and it's got some jelly on it. I don't know. He didn't tell me what kind of jelly it is. Looks like a strawberry or maybe a raspberry, perhaps.
Maybe the difference is that if it's whole wheat, it's only made with wheat, and whole grain has other grains within.
Yeah, let's look it up actually. And then he's got a cup of coffee with some cream in it, obviously. But you can see it's in a cup that says his, and it's like got a heart in it. So he must have those like his and hers with cups with his girlfriend, which is very cute. When are you gonna get me cups like that, huh?
You know, I said I was gonna roast him for that, but I honestly can't think of anything roastable about that, other than a simple haha, lol. But nothing wrong with being in love, right?
Exactly. Okay, whole wheat means that the bread is made from the entire wheat kernel. Didn't even know wheat had kernels. Okay. Whole grain means that the bread can be made of any whole grain kernel.
Yeah, so it's like what I said, where whole wheat means it's literally just wheat. Whole grain means it can be other things than wheat. But strictly just grain. Incredible.
Anyways, one of those two. I'm sorry, I don't know the differences. Like, I can't by looking at it tell. But yeah, and
she calls herself a super taster.
I'm a super taster, not a super seer. Okay, I wear contacts.
Her vision's not even 2020, let alone something beyond.
See, that's exactly why I have super taste. It's like the compensation thing.
She thinks she's Daredevil all of a sudden. I have a submission from our friend Gren, the returning fan. Thanks, Gren. He's got some ramen with sesame seeds, pepper flakes, and minced garlic with Mongolian beef.
Let me look at that.
So I'll turn on my brightness.
I've had a lot of like ramen style breakfast recently.
Yeah, a lot of my friends be eating ramen for breakfast.
Honestly, I'm about to have to try it.
Well, these comic nerds don't know the benefit of eggs.
Oh yeah, some people put egg in their ramen.
Actually, Gren is allergic to eggs.
Oh, well,
so
that'll get you.
I remember that. I remember Gren is into weightlifting, or particularly Gren is into improving his health. He was not the healthiest individual, and he's been making great progress. Gren lost a bunch of weight recently, actually, so good job, Gren. But he was asking me for like if I had any tips on like muscle mass growth or anything like that, how to gain mass. As you should eat eggs. They're powerlifters around the world swear by eggs, right? He's like, well, I am allergic, and that is a massive L. If you want to be a powerlifter or something and you're allergic to eggs, that's a huge blow.
Yeah. People on TikTok go crazy with like the oh my god. TikTok is a cesspool when it comes to health, fitness, nutrition, because that's like one of the downsides I would say to it, because like anyone can make a TikTok, so you get people who actually don't know anything about nutrition or like weightlifting and stuff like that. They'll be giving advice to people and be like, no, it's this, and it's like, actually that's not true. And then other times it's not that it's like necessarily untrue, but you just get all these like trends and stuff. So like, or like this like obsessive focus on protein. Like right now, like there's like just such huge focus on like, they're like, you need I don't know what the actual recommendation for protein is, but like let's say they're like, you need 120 grams of protein or something. I don't know the actual like macro counts, okay, so that might actually be a normal amount, but either way they're like really pushing to get a ton of protein, which is like fine, and especially like if you are trying to like gain muscle mass and stuff, like I get why you'd want all that stuff, but it's to the point where they're like putting cottage cheese in everything, because they're like, cottage cheese is so good for protein, so they're like, I mixed cottage cheese into my like tomato sauce for my pasta. And well, I don't know, people were saying it's good and it kind of makes me want to try it, but I also like hate cottage cheese, so I don't know. But
if you put if you make pasta for dinner tonight and there's cottage cheese in it, I would be quite upset. We don't have any cottage cheese in the house.
We
I don't think
because I don't like it.
I don't like it either.
But
my dad used to eat cottage cheese and applesauce, and I don't know. He swore it was good. I would just eat the applesauce.
He was getting the protein though. Apparently.
Yeah, apparently he was, and I guess the simplest way to be about something like that is just look at the people who've done it before you. If you are a power lifter or somebody who just really wants to get ripped, the sheer number of people like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson or these other massive dudes online, like physically very strong men, they'll all be like, yeah, just eat a lot of chicken, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not, you don't need to look at, oh, well, you have to micromanage every little macro that you're getting, and if you're not getting this exact amount of protein or eating these exact foods, you're doing it wrong. Some of that, like these TikTok gurus and stuff, they go a little overboard.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen a lot of stuff about like hidden protein or whatever. They're like, rather than just like eating a bunch of like chicken and that's it, like I'm a big fan of hidden protein, which is I think why they're like mixing cottage cheese into stuff. Or like, whatever. But I feel like at that point, isn't it just easier? I mean, I guess like it's always better to get it from your diet, but in like foods, like whole foods and things like that. But like maybe just some protein powder is just easier at that point if you're really like that obsessed with like throwing in the extra protein.
Yeah, and I'm not a nutritionist or a world-class athlete or anything like that, but I feel like you don't need to be those things to just simply look at chicken and vegetables goes a long way for getting your protein.
Yeah, and I mean a lot of the like dietary recommendations, which like I don't know, we can say whatever we want about them, but like it's usually like okay, like for the like my plate thing or whatever, it's supposed to be like half vegetables and then like a quarter protein and a quarter grain.
Well, right, because you get a lot of your vitamins and stuff from your vegetables. There are certain things like iron that you kind of need from like a meat. Usually, like that's a really good source of things like iron.
More like I think vitamin B and stuff like that, because like spinach is a really good source of iron. Actually,
I think that was in a crossword that I was doing at work with some. Every once in a while at work, we'll do the jumble, which is in the newspaper. They give you like a couple. It's like a word scramble. You unscramble the letters, and then there's like 4 or 5 of them, and then the newspaper will highlight some of the letters, and then it'll give you a riddle, and you have to unscramble the highlighted letters to answer the riddle, and usually it's a pun. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but they're usually dumb. They're things like a couple of guys in a baseball game, but they're setting up like a fort outside of the baseball game as opposed to actually having bought tickets. And then they'll have little word bubbles, and it'll say things like, "Wow, the game sure is loud from here." "No, I actually think it's very quiet." And then the riddle will be, "The 2 men didn't buy tickets, but you could say their argument was," and then the answer is intense. And the intense would have been unscrambled by the highlighted letters. And we do that like weekly or every maybe twice a week because they're in the daily newspapers. But they also come with crosswords and other stuff like that. And one of the crossword hints was vitamin found in kale. And it was 4 letters. And I said iron. And that one, it fit. And it was right. So
good job.
Kale and spinach, because they're kind of the same thing, or at least related vegetables.
Yeah, no, they're very similar.
High in iron.
Yeah. Although, actually, now that I say that, I do think the plant-based iron and the meat iron is different. I think, going back to, like, my med school education, I think you have to... There's, like, an extra step in, like, digestion for the plant ones versus the, like, from animal meats and stuff.
You might be better content to get it from meat.
I think it's just that it's easier for your body to get the iron out when it's in meat versus like there's extra stuff your body has to do when it's coming from plants, I think. I'm not 100% sure, so don't like quote me on that because
getting flamed in the comments for being wrong.
We learned about iron and like B12 and all those and like B6 and those things at the same time. So like, I think it's iron that's what that is. But I guess it could be like B12 or something. But no, I think it's iron. That like the plant-based and the meat is like a slightly different process when your body's absorbing it and digesting it.
And not to roast them too much, but part of the reason that I don't like the idea of a vegan diet very much is because I'm kind of the thought process, or the school of thought, that if you have to take vitamins to like supplement your diet, that means your diet's not good. Like if you couldn't survive off of the food you're taking in, you're probably not taking in the right foods.
I will say though, I saw a thing recently that with the like current, not just like typical like diet of Americans and stuff like that, but I think even just based on the way our food is grown and then like or like prepared and stuff, that we're not getting the nutrients that you normally would, like even like in our meat and stuff, like because of the way they're raised and then prepared, like normal, like in like I don't know 50 or 100 years ago, if you were eating that stuff, it would have more nutrients in it and more of the stuff that you need, and so then you could get that stuff from your diet. But it's a really harder now, so some of the nutrients it kind of is recommended to take as a supplement, because it's a lot harder for us based on the way our food is like grown and prepared and raised and all that stuff to get.
Yes, and if that's true, and it probably is in some capacity, that is a reflection on our society, that the foods that our ancestors ate, like a steak and some broccoli and some potatoes or something, like would have been good enough for somebody 100 years ago for a diet, because everything they needed like was in there naturally. But the way that we mass produce these things is no longer sustainable. Like if your ancestors did not need iron tablets and vitamin C pills and stuff like that to survive, and the fact that we do because our food is bad is more of a reflection on our food than like those supplements being good.
Yes, although I will also say, I mean, people back then also did like die of starvation and stuff.
They definitely did.
Or like have anemia and things like that. For consumption.
Consumption, yes.
I mean, that's just tuberculosis, but...
I love calling it consumption, though. I think it's so funny. What movie was it we were watching with Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Oh, Moulin Rouge.
Moulin Rouge, yes. He, obviously, the actor who plays Obi-Wan Kenobi. What is his name again?
Oh my god.
I can't think of it. I feel terrible that I can't.
I don't want to look it up because, like, I know it.
I'm gonna get blasted by my friends.
He's not good at celebrity.
Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, he plays the main character in Moulin Rouge, and it's a musical, and he sings, and it's very strange. He does a good job,
very
though.
good, actually.
Yes, he does a good job.
Well, like the first half is really weird and like kind of too much, but the second half is really good.
Yes. Towards the end of the movie, the girl that he's been flirting with and in love with this whole time, she like coughs and pulls out a little kerchief or whatever, and there's just blood in it, and we were like, consumption. She's dying of tuberculosis.
Yeah. And I don't know, like for some reason, I watched that movie when I was way younger, and I thought it was like because of her corset was like pulled too tight.
Oh, like her lungs or something were getting squeezed.
Yeah, like I didn't realize, because I didn't know what consumption was. I didn't realize it was like a virus or tuberculosis or whatever. Like I think that's actually a bacteria. I didn't realize that it was an actual infection kind of thing, and not just like, oh no, the women back then had their corsets and it pulled too tight, and like that's consumption.
And also, it's called consumption. So, and I thought that was because you were consuming something. Like I thought it was like another word for alcoholism. Like you consume too much alcohol and your body starts to fail.
Yeah, that would make sense.
But I believe it's that you're being consumed by the disease, and that's why they call it that. So
I guess it's just like a wasting disease.
Yeah, like your body is being consumed by the disease, and they called it consumption because it was nicer than saying, "Oh, you have tuberculosis."
Yeah. Which
I kind of understand, but it was jarring for me, for my understanding of it. Just a little out there.
Yeah.
Also,
wow, you have a lot of talking points today.
I do. Some of them are pretty short.
Oh, okay.
Happy April Fool's Day, everybody.
True. We should have...
I hope you're all having a terrible day. April Fools!
Wow.
Got them. Certified got them.
Should have done like a prank.
Actually, literally got them. That's why I'm wearing this silly whale shirt. We are the sons of the whales you couldn't harpoon.
I was gonna say you should, should talk about your shirt.
She made this for me because a while ago, a couple episodes ago, maybe episode 6 or 7, we talked about how we had done a murder mystery night, and I was Ahab Walesworth, who was very concerned with the health and well-being of whales. This is the shirt she made for that, one of 2 shirts. I'm wearing it today because it's funny and it's April Fool's Day.
That's smart.
Yeah. Haha.
So what's your next talking point?
My first talking point.
My bad. True.
It's time to start with sports.
Wah,
First, and something that's the least important to me because I don't really care about baseball much. Opening day, baseball season started this week. In typical Red Sox fashion, they lost their game. I was looking at the stats, and it seems something like 60% of opening day Red Sox games are an L. They just lose more than half the time at opening day, which, 1, that's depressing, but 2, it doesn't matter because unless I'm just misinformed, then their performance at opening day does not have a strong correlation with their ability to win the World Series. Could you actually look? Maybe is that a stat?
What?
Could you Google correlation between World Series performance and opening day loss? I don't know if there's a better way to word that, but basically what I'm trying to say is if they lose half or more of their opening day games, I don't think it matters to the rest of the season. It's not like a bad omen, right? Because they have World Series wins, a good number of them. So I'm hoping that it doesn't matter.
41 of the 118 World Series winners lost their first game of the season.
So almost half.
Yeah. So
not
such a huge thing.
No real correlation there. It shouldn't be a big deal. So yeah, that's the Red Sox. Go Red Sox or whatever. I'm not a huge baseball fan. I used to play when I was a kid. It was boring. The stadiums are nice, except, again, I'm a, quote, Red Sox fan, and Fenway Park sucks. It's historic, and it's nice, and it's got the Green Monster, but it's also very old, and I am pretty tall, and it sucks to sit in that stadium. Their seats in particular are bad, but anyway, that's Red Sox. The next is the Bruins I believe they won their 58th game a couple days ago, 2 days ago maybe, and that is 1, a record for the franchise. They've never won that many games in a season. Mm-hmm. 2, it's also already been a record-setting season because I mentioned before that they are the team to have won 50 games fastest in a season.
Pretty slick.
Nobody had ever won 50 games as fast as this year's Bruins have. And in securing their 58th win, they have secured home field advantage for the playoffs. So that's nice, which means that hopefully they can go all the way this year. We'll certainly be tuning in. We'll raise the old Stanley Cup. That'd be nice. Next, the last one is there are some new NFL rules.
Oh.
They're not huge rules. I wrote down 2 that I thought were the funniest. Or one that was impactful, one that is funny. The impactful one is failed 4th down attempts are now going to be reviewable. Which means that if you try to QB sneak it or something and you fail to get the yard that you maybe they can review that now, which is a bit different. Like normally they would just take one look at it and be like, yeah, he didn't get there. But now they could spend a good bit of time.
I thought those were always I thought everything was reviewable. I didn't realize that things weren't reviewable.
There are certain things that because they don't want to slow the game down too much, they don't want to pause for too long.
I see.
And a couple of years ago, they even implemented a thing called expedited review, which was things that were previously reviewable was taking too long. So they were like, well, we can review them still, but you got to be a little faster. And in the converse of that, things that were not reviewable, you could do an expedited review where you can look at it, but you got to do it quickly. So something like a failed QB sneak on 4th down, I imagine will kind of fall in that expedited review category where instead of just being like, yeah, he didn't get it, let's move on, it's, well, we're going to take a quick look at it to be real sure that he didn't get it. And the second thing is you can now have number 0 on your jersey. You can be number 0 in the NFL now.
That's kind of cool.
Which predominantly pertains to kickers.
Oh.
I believe a quarterback could also be number 0. there are rules about what position you can play and what number you can have. There's like a range for each of them.
I didn't realize.
Somebody like a kicker can be, I believe, between it used to be 1, but now it's 0 and maybe 15 or 20, and then any number like above 85.
What the heck?
Yeah, up to 99. You can't be 100, which would also be cool. But if you start putting triple digits on jerseys, you're going to open a whole other can of worms. It's going to be too much. But that's why guys like quarterbacks, like Tom Brady's number 12, Aaron Rodgers is number 12. There's no number 36 quarterback or anything like that. It's like a numbers thing.
I see.
And if you do decide to change your jersey, I found out that you have to pay the league compensation for all the lost versions of your old number. So like if you're number 20 and you want to change to number 0, all of the 20 jerseys that have your name on it for your team, the league like either won't be able to sell them or won't be able to use them now because they're outdated, and that is costing them potential money. So you just have to, if there's 100 of your old jersey laying around, you got to pay for them because now they're worthless.
I see.
And you changing your name is like costing them money. Or not your name, your number is costing them money. So you can change your number, but you just have to like eat the cost of the lost revenue. Which makes sense, but it was something I didn't know.
Do they sell jerseys for every player? I thought it was like...
So.
I guess it's just like, what if there's like some random guy that like you don't even... You know what I mean? Like obviously the big names it would make sense that they sell them, but every person on a team?
Well, every player on a team is a family, right?
I guess that's fair, but
you might want to wear your cousin's jersey even if he's a bench rider.
Yeah, I guess. It's just to me like there's so many players and like I don't know most of them. I just know the big names. Like I'll know the quarterback and then like Derrick Henry.
Right. Even I don't know all the players. I have friends who like play fantasy and stuff and they know more about it than I do. But even those guys can't name every player on every team. But I imagine there's got to be some stock for every player. It would be weird if you wanted to get a jersey and they just didn't sell it.
Yeah, I guess that's fair too.
They just would have less. Like, they got warehouses full of these things. Mm-hmm. They've probably got 1,000 Tom Brady jerseys and, maybe 10 of some guy you've never heard of. Those are made up numbers, but, the 10 to 1, 100 to 1 ratio, I'm sure is approximately adequate, approximately correct.
Do you have Doflamingo on your phone?
Yes, I had Googled him earlier because he always wears his sunglasses, and I was like, does he ever take them off? So I Googled his eyes. All I got was a bunch of memes, so he either doesn't take them off ever, or it's only for like a second, and the results aren't good. But yeah.
Lots of sports to talk about, I guess.
Lots of very shallow sport things to talk about. Yes.
Yes.
But thank you for joining us on the Sports Corner. Got any more Hailey Bieber news?
I don't think I do.
How upsetting.
I know
some of our viewers really love the Hailey Bieber drama.
Yeah.
One viewer in particular, who knows who he is.
Thank you for following along with the drama.
Yeah, he even sent me some the other day. He was like, bro, check this out. And it was just like a picture of Hailey Bieber imitating Selena Gomez again. She can't be stopped.
I feel like that's just like always the thing now, so I'm kind of just waiting till I hear some like new big thing.
It's like not worth reporting because it's going to keep happening.
Yeah. It's just like, there's always something that she's copied her for, I swear. Well, since yours was shallow, I'll do a shallow one. I think Teddy Fresh is having... I like Teddy Fresh. It's like...
Are you wearing Teddy Fresh?
I am wearing Teddy Fresh right now. So we love. Or at least I love. Because I like the H3 podcast. I don't really watch it anymore because med school, I don't really have time to consume things the way I would like. So I'm like way behind on all the podcasts and stuff. I got into it when frenemies was a thing, and that's not a thing anymore. And then I was sad, and then there was families, which was good. And then that's gone, and I was still watching like the normal one after that, and like I like Leftovers, but basically I don't really watch it very much anymore because I just don't have time. But I still, his wife, Hila Klein, has Teddy Fresh, which is a clothing brand, and I think they have really cool stuff. Not everything, obviously, because you're not gonna like everything that a brand comes out with, but I think some of the the shirts and the different outfit things are very like cool and fresh, right? And like cute. I like some of those like over the top kind of fashion things where like they have not this over the top, but one of their hoodies they release has like the little ears because it's like Teddy Fresh, right? So it's got like little teddy ears. I think that's so cute, and I like super cute fashion. And then like this is like an anime girl. I don't even know if you can see it. It's like an anime girl with like really big eyes and everything. So yeah.
I don't really care for Ethan Klein. I think he's sleazy, but we don't have to agree on everything. And some of the clothes she buys are cute. At least they look cute on her.
But yeah, they're dropping a teddy, or like they're having a collab with Godzilla. Look at this. What? Look at that.
Man, that's cool.
What?
Godzilla is just so cool that anybody collaborating with Godzilla stands, they're at risk of receiving some of my money.
And I already bought him a Teddy Fresh shirt.
Yes, I don't know if I've worn it on the show yet, but I like gaudy stuff. I like the royalty look, things like that. If it made more sense to wear stuff like that more frequently, I would. But I have a shirt from her that is from this Teddy Fresh brand that has a teddy bear. I think he's got an eye patch, like a cloak, a scepter, and a crown. And it says like heavy is the head that wears the crown or something like that on it. It's a nice shirt. I like it. It fits me pretty well.
Yeah, so he does have one Teddy Fresh clothing thing. Because I saw that and I was like, it's too perfect for him.
Yes.
And I like sharing things with, like, I like Teddy Fresh a lot, so I like sharing that with you, you know? But yeah, they're having a collab with Godzilla, and there's some, like, really cool stuff. There's, like, this, like, kind of button-down shirt and a tie that they're releasing, which has Godzilla on it. And then it looks like there's a really cool-looking sweater with Godzilla, like, doing the, like, electricity.
Atomic breath.
But I don't know. I'm not, like...
I do know. That's why I told you.
Yeah. But anyways, so really cool stuff. I think definitely you at least need the tie, because how cool would it be to show up to, like, work with a Godzilla
It's
tie?
one of those things where, yes, a tie can have personality, and it is a nice tie. But also, if you're at, like, a serious work event and you show up with the Godzilla tie, like, if I was in a full suit and a Godzilla tie, that might be not the look.
I feel like it would be the look, absolutely.
But it also could be. It'd be nice to have, and then you would have to judge when would be the appropriate time to wear it.
I guess, like, when it's, like, not a super serious thing, but still a situation where you're, like, supposed to dress up. Like, maybe one where it's, like, buttoned down and a tie, but not necessarily, like, a suit jacket kind of thing.
Let's put it this way. We went to a formal event for your med school recently.
Yeah.
If I wore a Godzilla tie to that, would that have made you upset?
If it had matched my dress, I wouldn't mind.
Wow. Well, there you go.
That one wouldn't match the dress I wore, but, like, if I had, like, a red dress, maybe that matched the, like, lettering or something.
There's a time and a place for mucking around.
I am someone who I like things that are a little weird and, like, fashion things that are, like, out there. Like, I want to stand out and stuff, so I just think it's kind of fun to, like, push the boundaries. So, like, wearing a Godzilla tie is, like, so cool. Also, one of my classmates, so when I went to that leadership conference thing, he has a tie that has, like, dinosaur skeletons on it. And cool. I was like, oh my god, I love it. And I was like, you need one like that.
Well, and also, as I said, there's a time and a place, because if you're like a college professor, those guys wear whatever tie they want. Like Miss Frizzle from the Magic School Bus, right? Her whole thing was that she would show up in these wacky outfits, or somebody like Bill Nye he's going to wear some science-related tie all the time. So if you are... It all depends on your environment, but, you know, there is such a thing as professionalism. So under the right circumstances, that tie would be awesome.
Yeah.
You just, you know, it's good to own. You just have to decide when the right circumstances are.
Yeah. So I'm pretty excited. It drops April 6th, so we'll be on the lookout for that.
We'll certainly be looking. I love Godzilla.
Yeah.
There's a restaurant in Portland called Kong Tu Bot. I don't know. They're the first independent restaurant in Maine to unionize. Oh. All 20-something of their employees, I think it was 23, have unionized. And their owner, founder, whoever, is on board and fully supportive. And I didn't see on the article what exactly that means for the restaurant or for the individuals or for the owner or whatever, but it was Kong spelled with a C.
Oh, Kong.
And then TU.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. A Vietnamese restaurant, which you should have been able to guess from the name. First independent. The Portland Press. There it is. Portland Press Herald. First independent restaurant in Maine to unionize in 40 years. This is the article I was looking at earlier. They have 21 workers, and it was a unanimous vote to join a union. As I said, I don't really know what that means for the restaurant exactly, but I do know I support a union.
Yeah. I'm just trying to see if it says like anything about it. Well, I guess like part of it, because the owners were like kind of encouraging them to do it and everything, and it sounds like they kind of wanted to just like set the precedent and like hope that other restaurants might follow.
I was reading it earlier, and they did mention that during COVID, workers in places like restaurants were simultaneously essential and disposable. Where, oh, you're an essential worker, you have to come to work. But then at the same time, you aren't paid well and your time off is bad. Like food service workers in particular are some of the least taken care of workers in the workforce. Just like broadly speaking, like they're the most replaceable. You know, the guy who makes $11 an hour flipping burgers at McDonald's is not the most, like he doesn't have the most job security. You know, he can get fired for any reason. He could quit for any reason. And he'll be replaced in a week. So while you're essential, your job is essential. The employee never was. But when you're in a union like this, you have a bit more power. So it's definitely something that I would encourage people in these types of positions to unionize.
Yeah, I guess it kind of just sounds like that they actually had like a kind of informal union beforehand. It says the staff's more informal union, CTB Rockers United, had made strides in improving conditions for workers. So they had like a tip pooling system for hourly workers. Their wages went up, and they had better hours and stuff. So I think it's just like that kind of like quality of life thing, and like respect for your workers and sort of stuff, and just trying to have like a better working environment, you know?
Yeah. Whereas somewhere like Amazon, Jeff Bezos spends millions a year to kill unions. I don't even think you're allowed to be employed at Amazon if you're a part of a union. Because stuff like convenient hours, or not convenient hours, but consistent hours. Because convenience is one thing, but consistency is kind of the more important part of having a job, like having any job. I know I'm grateful and biased because I work a 9 to 5, but I've had friends, and I've even in the past myself worked in like a service industry position. Not knowing what your schedule looks like sucks.
Yeah, and it's hard to like plan things, and then there's a lot more of the like, oh, this person called out, can you come in? And then you have to be like, no, I don't want to, or I can't, or whatever. And
you're letting the team down.
Yeah, it's like a whole thing. And also, I feel like you just get treated worse in general in those jobs. Not even if your management is good, like you're dealing with the public and people can be really rude. So,
if you've ever heard the god-awful phrase quiet quitting, which is a stupid made-up term by corporatists that just means, it literally, I'm pretty sure the definition of it is doing nothing more than the bare minimum of your job requirements. Like, oh, they don't really have any passion or drive to be a more valuable part of the team. They only do the exact requirements of their job and nothing more. Hey moron, that's what you hired me to sweep the floors between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. I come in, I sweep the floor all day, and I go home. Oh, you're quiet quitting. You should be going above and beyond. You should be scrubbing the windows too. No, you don't pay me to do that. Yeah. Right? Then, meanwhile, these employers can, I'm going to call it quietly firing. They can quietly fire you by reducing your hours. So instead of, and like, you might work at Walmart and get 39 and a half hours a week. So you're not technically a full-time employee. So they don't have to give you benefits or anything like that. And they don't have to have your schedule posted ahead of time. Like, your schedule is not consistent. They switch it around and you work just below a full-time job. you get into an argument with the manager, they can reduce your hours, just like for no reason. They can just be like, well, you're actually only going to work 17 hours this week. And then you complain about it, so next week you're working 9 hours.
Oh, yeah.
You're working 1 hour a day, or 1 hour a week even, and they haven't fired you, and they could put it back up at any time. You don't know. You have no control over these things. And that's terrible. It should be illegal.
That actually reminds me, when I was in high school, my senior year of high school, I worked at Krispy Kreme. Because I needed to get a job so I could like buy things, and also my parents were like, you need to get a job. And like once I got a car, my parents were like, you're getting a job. So, or I guess once I like got my license, and then my mom let me drive her car, it was like, you're getting a job. So I got a job, and I worked at Krispy Kreme, because even back in 2017, 2018, finding a job was a nightmare, because like you'd apply to a million places and no one would get back to you. And that's especially hard when you're looking for a first-time job, because then you don't have like much of a resume and no one wants to hire you, and this whole thing. But I got a job at Krispy Kreme. But there were some girls at my school who also got jobs there, and then I know some of them, like, they just stopped putting them on the schedule. Like, they never, like, specifically fired them. They just, like, stopped putting them on the schedule. So then they were like, yo, what's up? Like, why am I not being scheduled? And so then it basically, like, you're forcing the worker to, like, quit, basically, because they don't want to fire you.
Because if you get fired, you can file for unemployment. And I think your employer, I don't know if they're the ones who have to pay your unemployment or something like that, but the employer can, like, get negatively affected by having to fire you. But if you quit, well, that's not their problem.
So, like, that sort of stuff is just, like, should be illegal, and it's just, like, it's just very blatant exploitation of workers, and it's really gross. And so, like, yeah, those type of jobs are not easy, and people also, like, I think some of the older generation seems to think that, like, if you're working, you always have to go above and beyond and stuff. It's like, I'm sorry, if I'm working at McDonald's, I'm not, like, breaking my back for a corporation that doesn't care about me, and, like, it's not quiet quitting to just do what you're supposed to when you're making $15 an hour. And I'm sorry, but no matter how much that person who's working $15 an hour, like, goes above and beyond, they're not going to get a big promotion, and if they do, it's just to be a manager at a McDonald's.
Yeah,
they're not going to become the CEO of McDonald's. I'm sorry, like, it's never going to be, like, a big enough thing.
Yeah, here's your 50-cent raise. Thank you, I appreciate it. I'll keep working my 15-hour shift, like a week shift or whatever. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't work hard to try to get ahead. Like, there are some jobs where it makes perfect sense to work very hard, because you will like get a raise, you will get that recognition. Something like, you know, a construction worker or an electrician or something. I feel like those are jobs that would be more rewarding for working hard in, because that effort is a lot more visible. But working hard, stocking shelves at Stop and Shop is not going to get you anywhere. I mean, if you disagree, you can argue with me in the comments, but I just don't see it really working that way. And a lot of a job like, you know, you're a scientist or something, you work in a lab, like I do. I don't know how much a union would help somebody like me. I'm sure there's no downside to it, other than maybe having to pay some kind of dues or something like that to be a part of the union. But somebody like an Amazon worker, the people who are not allowed to have unions, well, those rules exist because you're probably the people that would benefit most from a union, and the union would have the most to fight management about, and that's why they try hard to prevent you from forming one.
Yeah, so that's like, and some companies do a really good job, like, with propaganda against unions and stuff. Like, basically just think about this, that, like, if a company is really, like, telling you not to form a union, that's probably exactly the type of place that needs a union. Yeah. Like, the place, and because, I mean, if you look at when unions were a big thing in, like, the early 1900s, right, and, like, you have all these strikes and things, and, like, child labor and stuff, like, the unions were so huge because it got better things, like not having child labor and having a shorter work week and stuff, like, not, like, you can't work, like, or they can't force you to work, like, 80 hours a week or whatever. I don't know what the thing was, but, like, having that, like, 40-hour work week be a thing is, like, a huge thing that unions did back then. And also just having much safer working conditions in, like, factories and things like that. Jobs that are a little bit more of the like, you need less formal training for it, you know, like the food service stuff and working in a factory and stocking shelves and things like that. Like those type of jobs where it's a lot of maybe like manual labor that you don't need a ton of training for is very easy to get exploited, because all they want is just for you to churn out product, and they can technically like hire anyone to do the job.
Right.
Like at least when you're an electrician, you know, you have to get the training to be able to do that. Or like in your job, you had to get a college degree to do your thing, or at least like have a lot of experience in a lab and stuff.
Right, because people complain now, and you know, whether it's right or wrong, they do complain about things like the 40-hour work week and a 5-day work week for, you know, like an office job. But like your average person probably works a 9 to 5 or something similar to that. 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, weekends off. Most people don't work on Sundays. Things like that. Those were not things that you had before people unionized, and before you were working, you know, significantly longer shifts. You were not guaranteed like a Sunday off. So then, and people were like dying at the workplace. People working construction jobs would just die. You know, I'm sure they still do, but to a much lesser degree. It's not common to go build a building and see Tom die, right? Because there's safety things in place to prevent that, and you can thank the unions for that. That's not to say everybody needs a union all the time and that everything we're doing now is wrong or anything like that, but I'm just using it as an example to show that unions can work, and they have worked in the past, to get us better working conditions. And you were absolutely right that stocking shelves at Walmart is that they call it unskilled labor, because not that it doesn't require some degree of skill, but because whatever skills it requires can be accumulated on the job. You can hire somebody with literally zero experience, and they can put tuna cans on shelves. And if that person is an issue, or you just don't like them, you could fire them and hire somebody else with any degree of skill, literally zero experience or a bunch of experience, and they can equally well put tuna cans on shelves. So these people are extremely replaceable. And that's like probably why they're treated so poorly, is because they don't care if you quit.
But because they're like, it's unskilled labor and anyone can theoretically do it, like one person complaining about stuff, you could just fire that person and replace them. And that's why unions are so important in those scenarios, because it's one thing if just one person is complaining about it and it's easy to deal with, that you like would just fire them or whatever, right? But when your whole store decides that they're gonna walk out, and then now you literally have no one running the store, right? So that's like a much bigger thing. So the power you have collectively is enough to scare corporations, basically.
Yeah. Anyway, talked about that for 20 minutes.
I'm very passionate about
and it's something that we both like agree on, so we can talk about it for some time. Your turn. You got something?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, I had a test yesterday, which was fine. It was good. I did good on it. Thank you. But, like, the past few weeks, we've been learning, pretty much the two big major ideas that we've been learning about was, like, reproductive system. It's just, like, literally how the hormones and stuff work and what they do in your body. You know, how do we get the menstrual cycle? Or, like, what do the men's things, what are they like? Sorry. I don't know if I should say sperm on camera, because that's what we were learning about.
People are eating breakfast, and this is a family-friendly podcast, so maybe let's not talk about testicles too much. That's
why I was like not going to say it, so I was like men's things. But, you know, and then like diabetes and obesity and stuff. And then we always, after our tests, or almost always after our, they're called progress tests, we'll have this thing where someone comes in to kind of give us a lecture or a talk on different issues that are important to be aware of as a doctor, but you don't necessarily get a lot of focus on in the curriculum. So sometimes it's about, like refugees or dealing with like Hispanic or like Latin American people, Asian American people, LGBT people. Just like, it's important because you're going to come across these issues and these people with different cultural backgrounds when you're giving healthcare, but you don't super get like a lot of information on it in medical school. So it's just nice to be able to have that talk that says like, hey, here's something to be aware of, or like maybe this different religion isn't into this sort of stuff, or like this is what they think usually, and just being more culturally aware so you can provide better care. That rhymed. So we had ours about obesity, and like a little bit it was about childhood obesity too, which I thought was really interesting. It's actually a very interesting field of medicine, I think, and it's really huge right now because we have a lot of people who are not just overweight, but like obese, and a lot of people with diabetes and all these different consequences of these health conditions. And some of the stuff that they talked about was just things that I wanted to bring up because I thought it was really valuable information, because the way our society views issues of obesity is just not one, it's not an accurate view of what is an actual disease. Like, it at the end of the day, like, there are physiological processes that happen that when you're obese, and also that lead to obesity, that is more than just, oh, I ate too much food. I'm sorry if that's your view of obesity and you think that's like whatever percent of the country is obese because they just ate too much food. That is wildly like inaccurate to the situation. So it is a disease, and we have medications and surgeries that can help out with this, but people are very hesitant to actually utilize these medications, and some of them we learned about this week. And like, there's some new stuff that's coming out that's like really exciting, like in terms of this medication stuff. But some of what we learned about is basically that, so much of what happens in your body is all due to like hormones and these different processes. And your hypothalamus is like this part of your brain, and then it goes to your pituitary gland, and there's like so many different they're called like axes with them. So like your HPG axis is like how you make your sex hormones, right? Like the stuff that allows you to go through puberty and things like that, or like have a period. Your HPA axis is how you make like cortisol and the stress hormone and stuff like that. So like there's a lot of different axes, I don't know.
Axes, I think.
Axes, right? Yeah. And so part of that system is, and like those parts of your body and your hormones and everything contribute to satiety, is how our teacher said. I don't know. I thought it was satiety. I don't know. Satiety, I guess. But like if you're hungry or if you're satisfied and you don't want to eat anymore, and there's different hormones. There's like leptin, and there's ghrelin, and there's this GLP-1 and PY. I saw a whole lot of stuff. I'm not about to give you a whole like rundown of all this stuff, but basically these hormones are really important, and particularly leptin, I guess, is something that they're looking at as a big cause or issue in obesity, because leptin is a hormone that primarily like sends out signals that like, okay, we're good. It acts on both of these neurons that basically one acts on a receptor and says, we're not hungry anymore, we've had enough, we're good, like shut it down kind of thing. And the other one inhibits or stops that one, and so then it says, okay, we're hungry. And leptin acts on both of those. So it stops the one that says you're hungry, and it upregulates, or it stimulates the one that says we're full. But leptin is interesting because it's produced, I think, by your fat cells, and when it's a much longer term hormone than the other ones that I was talking about, those are like when you eat a meal, or like after you've eaten, like a few hours after you've eaten and now you're hungry again. Like that's the short term that they're working on, of like just every day, like, oh, I'm hungry, I'm not hungry, like that sort of stuff. But leptin is a much longer term hormone, I think, that's like based on how much fat you have. because when you have less fat, which is how your body stores energy, so if you don't have a lot of fat, your leptin levels are going to be lower, and it basically makes your brain and your body think, oh, we need to like eat more because we don't have a lot of extra energy and energy and storage, and if something's wrong. And basically part of like obesity, or at least one of the mechanisms they think is part of it, is that when you have a lot of fat cells and you have a lot more leptin, now your leptin receptors are getting over stimulated, kind of, so you get this resistance to leptin. So even though you actually have plenty of this extra storage and energy, your body now, it thinks that we don't have enough. So now your body's saying we need to, one, like, you're probably going to be hungrier, but also that like your body's gonna shut down certain processes that like, oh, well, we need to store energy, or like we need to bring out energy. I think so it contributes to insulin resistance as well, and so it can, that's part of why you can get diabetes just from being like overweight or obese, sort of stuff. It's like a huge thing. And basically they were also telling us about how there's a set point in your body of where your body thinks it needs to be. So even when you lose weight, like if your body sets your set point, and we don't know like fully how to change this yet. We have medications to help with weight loss and stuff, but sometimes if you get off of those, you'll go right back up. You'll gain weight again.
Regaining weight is one of the biggest issues with obesity, is that these people will, like, if you ever watched the show The Biggest Loser, which used to be on like years ago, these people would come in 600 pounds and they'd get put on some like rigorous exercise routine for a couple of months, and they would drop down to like a healthy weight, and then they would go home, and many of these people would just become obese again.
Yeah.
That, like, eating habits and lack of exercise and like just other things that, like, the stuff you're talking about now, it's very difficult to for some of these people to maintain that healthy weight.
And they did actually talk about the Biggest Loser problem. One, this is why it's really important to do more sustainable weight loss things, because if you, like, fad diets and crash diets and things like that are, like, not healthy. One, because a lot of times, if like on fad diets, especially, a lot of times what you're losing, if you're like, I lost 10 pounds is in like 2 days, it's water weight. Yeah. So you're going to gain it right back as soon as, and water weight is basically your glycogen stores, which is like you have glucose, there's like blood sugar. Glycogen is just like stacks of glucose in a way you can think about it. It's like a lot of that, and that's part of how they will store glucose is in glycogen. And that takes a lot of like water to do that. So if you're losing weight, it's because you're breaking down the glycogen stores, so then the water goes with it. But like as soon as you start eating again, like enough food, your body's going to store it again, and you're going to gain the weight back.
And that's why in the first, in middle school, I think I watched one season of The Biggest Loser. The first week, or the first episode usually, because the episodes are like a week or something like that. It's been a long time. But the first weigh-in was always the one they lost the most weight in. People were losing 60 pounds in one weigh-in period because it was all water weight. You'll just lose... if you're a 600-pound person, you lose 60 pounds of water weight in that first weigh-in. And then the next one is a lot more reasonable because it's actually fat after that point.
Yeah, so that's like one thing to know about. And then just also that, like, yes, when you do like really fad diet, crash diet stuff, you lose water weight, and so then you think you've lost more weight, but you're not. But also, like, the other part is just the sustainability of it. So like you can lose a good amount of weight, but if you like keto diet, for example, like a lot of people think that's like a cure-all or whatever for things, which, by the way, like I would, unless you actually have like a disease where you're dealing with like, oh, I can't, like there are disorders where because you don't have a certain enzyme, like you don't process carbs good.
Ketoacidosis, right? Is that like your body gets sent into it, or is that... I know
they're talking about ketosis. Oh, so keto diet puts your body in ketosis, which is because your body makes these ketone bodies. It's all part of like the fat storage and like glucose and all that. It's like a whole thing. But generally I would not recommend it for a lot of people because at the end of the day, like, you're losing out on a whole macro molecule if you're not eating carbs. And also, like, that's how you get fruits and veggies. Like, those are carbs, and those are...
You need carbs.
You need carbs. Like, I don't know how to explain to you that, like, you need carbs. Yes, you can cut down on them a little bit, and yes, it's not great to be having, like, all sorts of, like, junk food, really. But, like, please don't actually cut out all carbs. That would not be good.
It's actually ridiculous how many of these, over the years, right, even just in the last 25, 30 years, we've gone through, you need to cut out all fat, you need to cut out all sugar, you need to cut out all carbs, like in waves, like different time periods, like in groups of 5 to 10 years. The object of people's weight loss obsession has shifted between those things that I just mentioned. You shouldn't, in a healthy diet, be like completely missing a food group.
Yeah. That's like the low fat stuff is like kind of not good either. I mean, certain types of fat you should eliminate or try to keep very low, like trans fats are not good for you. And even like saturated fat, I think you're supposed to have like, that should be like 10% or less of the daily fat you get. But like, fats are very important for your brain, like in parts of your body.
Your brain is like made of fat.
Yeah, and like literally the coating that surrounds your nerves is fat. So like, please don't fully like don't cut out a full like food group or at least like a macromolecule from your diet. I promise you, like, unless you actually have a problem processing a food, like some people do have, they can't like store fat or like or they can't process carbs good. There are like disorders that you're missing an enzyme, so then yeah, you would need to have these diets. But like in a normal healthy person, you will be much better and it's much more sustainable to just like change maybe the proportions of how much you're having, but like don't fully cut something out.
Do you remember the food pyramid and how like 60% of it was carbs?
Yeah, I know. And that's the other thing too, is like you always have to be a little bit I guess skeptical and conscious of these things, because like this stuff is always changing. But this is not really what I wanted to say. I wanted to say that because your body has a set point, which is like set, I think, by your hypothalamus, or like that whole stuff going on in your body. It's very important for homeostasis and stuff. So your body is going to say, this is how much this person should weigh. And at the end of the day, like, you could gain weight, or, well, realistically, this is the kind of part of why, like, you and another person, like you and your friend might have very similar lifestyles. You might eat very similar food, and you might do very similar exercise or, like, physical activity. And, like, they could be, like, 100 pounds, and you could be 150 pounds. Like, at the end of the day, it is very, weight is very individualized, because your body just has a set point that it thinks like this is where we need to be, and everyone's is different. And that's why, like, on some level, when people are talking about like the body positivity stuff, it is important, because not everyone's the same. And like, yes, there is like different levels, and like, yes, some people are not having healthy diets or lifestyles, and you should try and change that. But if you are having a healthy lifestyle and you're still like heavier than your friend, like, that's not, like, don't beat yourself up about that, please.
Yeah. At the same time, though, I would find it very unusual for your, like, healthy body weight to be 300 pounds.
I'm not saying that that's your healthy body weight.
I'm not saying that you're saying that. I'm saying that, like, body positivity does not mean that it's okay to be obese, for example.
But, like, part of the, like, so the set point does change. It's not that it never changes. It will change. We don't really know the mechanism of how to change it yet, which is, like, probably going to be a big thing, I imagine, that they're looking into for, like, weight loss drugs and stuff. Because if you could change that, like, with a medication, then you wouldn't have to, because this is the thing, is that, like, people who get put on weight loss medications right now, it's kind of like a indeterminate thing that you're on it for kind of forever, because if you get off those medications, like, because I don't think it changes the set point, right? So you could, like, have really good weight loss stuff, but when you get off of it, you might just gain it all back based on that. And so, like, that's part of the obesity thing, is that your set point gets really high, and that's why for some people it can be really hard for them to lose weight, even when they're, like, cutting out food, like, they're lowering their calories, they're doing exercise, like, they're doing things that theoretically should make you lose weight and should make you healthier. But at the end of the day, like, if your body thinks you need to be 300 pounds, like, it's gonna hold on to as much as it can,
right, and
you're gonna struggle. So that's just something to kind of focus on. And they were saying that, like, a lot of people who are really, like, obese and, like, feel, and especially, like, for kids that feel, like, horrible about it, and they feel like it's all their fault. Sometimes it's not really your fault. because again, there are people who are going to be very healthy and in like these weight loss programs and trying like so hard and it's not working, and that can be very frustrating for people. So it was kind of a little bit of like having the empathy and like looking into different stuff. But apparently, I guess they were saying, I think like, you know, like bariatric surgery or like the gastric bypass and stuff like that. So like some of the surgeries I think does change your set point, they were saying.
Oh, right, because you're literally changing your physiology.
And they were like, we don't know exactly how, but it does. So I think they're looking into that for like some of the medications too. But I don't know. I just thought it was very interesting, and that like, I just want everyone to know that weight loss and your weight and all that stuff is way more complicated and complex than people give it credit for.
Yeah. And I would just add that, like, if you lose a bunch of weight and, for example, your set point is, like, still very high, your body will want to hold on to that stuff, as you had said. But it's not like your body's just going to, like, generate fat all of a sudden. Like, you would still need to be eating an amount that is going to allow your body to hold on to that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like spontaneously you're just going to inflate again or anything like that. Your eating habits are still going to be the driving force behind that, but like, it's almost like your body is like sticky to the fat that you take in. Like, you're just going to hold on to it more than like, a normal person might.
Yeah.
But if you're not eating enough for your body to do that, then it won't.
And that's also why, like, the more sustainable, like, weight loss plans and things like that are really important, because at the end of the day, like, yes, you might lose 20 pounds eating nothing but, like, salad and, like celery, yeah, like, and coffee, like black coffee. Like, okay, yes, you might technically lose a good amount of weight on that, but it's not sustainable. And as soon as you start eating other stuff, because your body thinks it should be, like, it's just gonna...
Yeah, it just holds on to it really hard.
So, the more you can kind of just enact slow and, like, better, healthier ways, like, you won't lose it as fast, but it will be a much more sustainable thing for you.
Yeah, it's got to be a lifestyle change. It's not a fad diet or, like, getting some certain, like, liposuction to suck off 100 pounds of weight, and now you go from, 280 to 180 or something like that. If you don't make a long-term, like, permanent lifestyle change, then your body's just going to inflate again because you haven't changed,
And it is hard. And so if anyone is, like, struggling with that stuff, just know that, like, it's not fully your fault, probably. And the other thing that I don't know, is it in my notes? He said something when we were watching it.
Did you put your notes in your actual notes, like, folder on your computer? Like,
yeah, like in my notes app?
Yeah. She has Apple products, so it's like literally your phone notes app, even though it's on your computer.
Yeah, I don't do it for everything, but like for the on doctrines, just because it's easier to just type in that. So yeah, he said overeating doesn't cause obesity. Obesity causes overeating, which, like, yes, overeating is not good for you and will cause you to gain weight and stuff like that, but also obesity does also cause overeating because of that leptin thing I told you about, and the leptin resistance, where now you think you're, like, hungry all the time because your body thinks it doesn't have stores, even though it has actually, like, more than it needs for stores, right? So, like, that's not, like, not a totally accurate thing, but it is an important point that overeating can also be caused by obesity.
Oh, that's right. Like, you eat so much food, you become obese, and then your body's happy point moves, and then it becomes, like, a cycle.
Yeah. So, it's just a very nuanced thing, and I think people do not consider the nuances of it, and people are very unempathetic to people who are obese and struggling with this stuff. So, if you are, or even, like, if you're not, but you are self-conscious about stuff, because that's the other thing, is, like, eating disorders and like that is, like, very prevalent. Like, I think just our society's relationship with food and weight in general on all levels is, like, very unfortunate and messed up, because you have people who think you need to be, like, stick thin, or feel like even though they're at a healthy weight, they think they're not skinny enough, or you have, like, the people who are, like, dealing with obesity, and there's just, like, so many different levels to it that, like, it's almost like a you can't win situation, like, you're never going to be happy just because of the way all this stuff is presented to us. So just like be a little bit more empathetic to others and to yourself, basically, I think is really important. And
also, BMI, like body mass index, has got to be one of the worst units of measure for like if you're fat or not, or obese or not. People like pro wrestlers and strongmen and stuff, like if you Google, I think I mentioned him earlier, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. That guy is like 6'5", 250 pounds of muscle or something like that. Guy's probably 3% body fat or something ridiculous. Definitely less than a normal person, and definitely, but he's heavy. He's a big guy. NFL players are huge. Derrick Henry is 6'3", 240. Both of those guys, if you just went off body mass, they would be listed as obese because they're like, oh well, you're too heavy for your height. Like none of that. That it literally just doesn't account for muscle.
Yeah, and I actually, so this is the other thing is that like people talk about BMI stuff and like it's a really not great measurement, and I hope someone can come up with a better like measurement thing for that sort of stuff. But also I saw a TikTok the other day where like it was someone had stitched, like someone was saying that, and then someone stitched and was like, then why like do like doctors like still like go off of this and stuff and everything. I don't know, people were talking about it, and I just wanted to say from the perspective of a medical student, we learn about BMI. And we literally learned that it's not, like, proper measurement, or at least, like, it's not ideal because it has, like, it will overestimate, like, if you're muscle, it's going to think that if you have a lot of muscle, it's going to think that you're overweight or obese just because of the way, like, muscle is heavier than fat. And if you are, like, old and your bones are, like, more brittle and stuff, basically, like, now you're losing weight from that. So it will underestimate in that case. Like, you might have a lot of fat, but because you don't have, like, as much weight from your bones and stuff, then it's going to think that they're, like, in a healthier weight. So it's not a perfect measurement. And I just want people to know that, like, we are learning that, but we also are still using it. So I think we're in this weird middle point where we don't really have a better, like, and the thing is, like, in medicine, which it makes sense, but people always want to have, like, strict numbers and, like black and white stuff and more scientific things. I'm a social sciences, soft science girl at heart, so like I like having the nuances of things, but in a lot of cases of medicine, they don't want the soft science stuff, they want the hard science, so they want numbers and like quantitative data, not qualitative. So I think that's why they still use BMI stuff, because it's numbers, right? It's like, oh, I can do a math equation and figure this out, but at the end of the day, it's like not fully accurate or not the best measurement.
Yeah, and honestly, you can kind of like, usually you can look at somebody and just like know if they're obese or not. Like, you would never look at The Rock and go, oh, that guy's obese.
Yeah.
Like, you would never do that. It doesn't make any sense. You say that was a good one. I've got, how long we've been going? Over an hour.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I've got a real short last thing we can talk about. Let's talk about some cool animals.
Cool animals?
Yeah. What's your favorite animal?
Well, my favorite animal is probably cats.
Just like a regular house cat?
Yeah, like, I mean, they're great. I love cats. Hold on, I should get the man for this.
Go fetch him. Yeah, her parents, I feel like especially her dad.
Oh yeah, it is my dad.
Loves the cat. Ra. R-A, like the Egyptian sun god. He is very handsome. He's very well behaved, except for when he throws up, which usually is because he ate his food too fast, or he'll get a hairball or something. But overall, he's very well behaved. He's a good boy. He said that he doesn't even watch the podcast half the time because he wishes we had the cat on the camera more. Very silly, but she is descending the stairs now, probably with the cat in tow. We have so many nicknames for him. Usually we call him The Man, or Mr. Man, or Mr. Ra, Baby Man, Goofy Man. He's the man. Hello, Mr. Ra.
This is our man.
Hello, Mr. Ra.
I think all my friends prefer when he's in an episode.
How could you not?
It's like the one time he was in, I've used the picture of him in my arms for the thumbnail. People were like, yo, Mr.
You can do that again.
He looks so sleepy.
Give him a little kiss. Here, you can have one too. But yes, other than they're cute, is that really the only reason? I mean, it's just a favorite animal. You don't really need a good reason.
I mean, I just think they're really incredible animals, and I think they don't get the credit they deserve. And
Give them
also,
the credit they deserve.
Okay,
Spit.
okay. We're gonna spit raw. So, cats are very cool. They survive.
He's got his feet on the table.
They can survive falls from really high heights because they have that righting reflex, which is why you can, like, when you're holding a cat, you can just drop them on the floor versus, like, a dog will just, like, hit the floor, but, like, cats will always land on their feet kind of thing.
John Mulaney had a bit about that, didn't he?
I don't know if it was him, but someone did, yeah.
They were like, when you have a dog, you got to be careful. You got to place them on the floor like an old man. With a cat, you can bowl a cat.
Yeah. You really could bowl a cat, and I just, like, so that's really cool about them. When cats meow, like, they usually just meow to, like, talk, like, as a baby to their mom, or, like, from a mom to a baby, so they don't really meow at each other as much. They'll do more of those, like, little,
like chirping.
like the weird chirping sounds to each other, I think, to communicate. So basically, like, the fact that they meow at us is that they think we're babies, kind of, or they think we're their mom. They're purring. They purr at, like, such a frequency that it actually, like, can heal them. Like, they can be hurt, and if they purr, like, it has healing effects on their body, which is like, is that not the coolest thing ever? Could we could we harness the cat's purr to heal people? I don't know, but it's really cool. And also, cats are known to, like, hang out with people, like, close to people that are gonna die. Like, there's this cat that lives in, like, a nursing home or something, and she will go to people, like, who are about to die, and then, like, they die the next day or something. And, like, that's crazy. Like, cats, I feel like, are I don't know if it's, like, a spiritual thing or, like, they just sense it, but, like, they are just so knowing. Like, they just know things that I think we just can't even comprehend. And, like, dogs do that a lot too. I just think animals that can, like, sense things are so cool. And also, I just, like, he's, like, kind of just chilling, to be honest.
He's saluting.
They're so cute and fuzzy and warm, and I love them.
Look. Ross supports the troops. Psh.
Also, yesterday, what was I doing? The other day, I was, like, on the couch, and he meowed at me. And then he was, like, standing far away, though, and he wouldn't come over to me. So I, like, put my hands I put my head in my hands, and I started pretending to cry. I was like, ooh, ooh. Like, oh, and he came over to me, and this man was gonna come comfort me. And then I grabbed him. I was like, "Got you."
Bamboozled, outsmarting the cat. Classic. He fell for the classic blunder.
But, like, see, isn't that so sweet that he was gonna come when I was upset?
You hear that, Ra? Never let a woman trick you.
So, I just think cats are the greatest.
They're pretty cool. Choosing a favorite animal is hard for me. As a kid growing up, it was always tigers, specifically the Siberian tiger, just because they're huge. And they're... Everything cool she said about a little house cat, all that stuff is true for big cats. They're, like, physiologically so similar, like nearly identical. They're just different sizes.
That's another thing about cats. It's like all cats are kind of the same, even when they're big. So, like, yes, I mean house cats, but also just, like, all cats.
Like, people make memes about how house cats will sit in cardboard boxes and stuff like that. Anything goofy that a house cat does, there are videos of lions and tigers doing too. They do all the same stuff. A cat is a cat, just a different size. That's
remarkable.
Yeah, the old cat software is very sturdy. But these days, some of my favorite animals are I like crocodiles a lot. I love crocodiles. They're very handsome. They're all instinct. There's, like, no intelligence inside of a crocodile. It's 100% instinct. They don't think, they just do. And what they do is chill out in the water, ambush people, death roll. The death roll is cool. And it's actually interesting. The crocodile, despite it being, like, a mean, cold-blooded, unthinking, unfeeling reptile, they're good parents. And not just the mothers. The, like, male crocodiles will care for their young. The Nile crocodile in the Egyptian culture was seen as like a parent deity, because both male and female crocodiles will like let their babies like ride on their heads and stuff as they swim down the river. And they used to say that Sobek, the Egyptian crocodile god of the Nile, he would do that. Like he would let you, a dead person, like your soul, he would ferry you down the river to the afterlife. So crocodiles are cool. Though I think I would have to say my number one favorite animal, if it wasn't a crocodile or a tiger, would have to be a wolf. I love wolves. For all the reasons that we like dogs, wolves are the same way. They're bigger than a dog, which is cool. They're so intelligent and they're very family-oriented animals. A wolf pack is as close to like a family that a human might recognize as any animal has, other than maybe like an orca whale or a dolphin or something. They're like really in that upper class of intelligent animals, like apes, dolphins, and canines. They're all just so smart, and I think that intelligence is really impressive and incredible and fun to learn about. And I like that dogs, this is also said for the other smart animals, because they're so smart, they're almost uniquely capable of like emotion and kindness. Like something like a dolphin can choose to be kind or cruel. Because they're so smart, they know the difference between right and wrong, which seems weird to say about an animal, but like a shark is only a shark. It doesn't choose to be cruel or choose to bite you or anything like that just to be mean. But a dolphin can, and dolphins have done cruel things to other animals and to humans for little to no reason. Like the only reason that a scientist could rationalize an animal doing that is to purposely be cruel. It doesn't make any sense otherwise. But there's stories of dolphins like holding drowning people's heads above the waves to keep them alive. A man in, I think it was like 2008 or something, jumped off of a bridge to try to end his own life, and he was saved by a dolphin holding him above the water. This man's unconscious body was in the water dying, and a dolphin saved his life by holding him above the waves.
Yeah, dolphins are really cool.
Yeah, dolphins are awesome. They're so smart. And wolves are not quite as smart as dolphins, but they are still like in that higher tier of intelligence that they're capable of kindness and compassion and love that way, that I find very worthwhile to learn about. And also they're cute and fluffy, but very strong at the same time.
Yeah. I gotta throw out a shout out to jellyfish too.
They're freaky animals. They're weird.
No, they're so pretty. I think.
But freaky in a good way. Like they're extremely unique.
Like jellyfish are like the coolest things ever. And my gamer tag is like jellyfish specter, and I use it also for like a lot of different websites. So if you ever see a jellyfish specter, there's a good chance it's me, unless someone starts stealing my name. But yeah, I think they're really cool because one, I just think like they're really pretty, and like especially the moon jellies, but they have like no brain basically. They're
like barely alive. Like the classification of alive barely applies to a jellyfish.
But also because of these like weird properties it has, they can literally like basically live forever because they have this ability to like literally like regress the age of their like genes or something, or their cells. I don't even know. Like they are able to like reverse their aging basically.
Yeah, turn themselves back into toddlers basically.
It's insane. I don't know how it works, but it's incredible and I love them.
Sharks are almost entirely immune to cancer. So there's like and something like a whale, like a blue whale. The bigger a creature is, the more cells it has, and the more cells and cellular reproduction and cloning you go through, the greater your. Oh, let him go. Yeah. He didn't want to be here anymore. But
sorry.
A larger animal is more prone to getting cancer because it has more cells, and cancer is just your cells not cooperating, to put it in the simplest terms possible. And they grow and they grow and it becomes a tumor. Something like a whale should, in theory, have a lot of cancer. And they do. However, they're so big that by the time like a cell gets cancer, the cancer itself gets cancer and like kills the cancer. It's like, imagine it, because if you have like a tumor in your arm or something, it's because the cells in that area have like the reproduction has gone wrong in some way.
Yes.
And it's now a bunch of like bad cells that are making more and more bad cells, and it becomes a tumor.
Mm-hmm.
The bad cells will go bad like in such a way that they die like again in a whale. So like their cancer will kill itself before it can like spread.
Because is it really slow growing or something?
It's because they're so big and they have so many cells that it just, you would have to look it up to get more specific about that, but we don't have time for it to unpack all that. But anyway, a whale is resistant to cancer because of that, whereas a great white just doesn't even get cancer. And you can people have been trying to use sharks and whales to help develop cancer fighting medicine in humans.
That's really cool. Well, I think that's why they're interested in jellyfish too, because of the aging things. Which, by the way, I feel like not that long ago, someone was saying that they had done something to someone's cell, right? With to reverse aging. They're working on that technology.
Some people have stated that you could use young people's blood to reverse aging.
That's not what I meant.
Yes, but then there was research done, and it turns out it's probably true. I'm not saying if you're a vampire who bathes in that you're gonna de-age, but there are they did in mice that if they took blood from a young healthy mouse and put it in an old mouse, some of the aging effects would basically be reversed. Obviously, you would need a constant stream of young people blood for that, but
I can't wait for the rich and powerful to start picking off young poor people.
Yeah,
for
true.
Eternal youth.
Yeah, the whale thing is called Peto's paradox, or larger animals should get more cancer, but whales just don't. So, from the National Institute of Health, NIH.gov, the title of this study is called "Return to the Sea, Get Huge, Beat Cancer."
Oh my god. So you mean someone younger like us made that?
That's from 2019.
There you go.
And the thing about the whale, the cancer killing the cancer is just one of the theories and how it might
I think work. Based on this is one from Medical News Today. It just says why cancer doesn't affect whales. It kind of sounds like, at least for some of them, some of the process of how you get cancer is your cells naturally have these different proteins and genes and things that are specifically made to stop cancer. Apoptosis is one of them, but also there's just these things like P53 and different I don't even know the word for it, but parts of your cells that if things are going wonky or if your DNA sequence is messed up, if there's a mutation, they'll be yo, something's wrong, and then they stop the cell from going into mitosis and stuff, so it doesn't make more bad copies of itself. And there's tumor suppressor genes, and there's all these different things. But a lot of times when you get cancer, it's actively stopping those cells that normally would stop the cell from growing. A lot of them have things that will be oh, we're gonna shut that down, so now we can keep growing and keep repopulating, or doing the mitosis thing, so then you got a tumor, right? It just keeps producing more. But this says that partially is that I think some of the whales, it said, had multiple copies of these, had double the amount that we would have for these tumor suppressor genes and everything. And also that maybe their genes that regulate those things are almost more advanced or something.
Yeah, it's still a developing field of research, but whales are resistant to cancer, and that is something that we could use as humans potentially. And sharks are resistant for an entirely different reason.
Yeah.
Animals are cool, form unions, and make a lifestyle change to defeat obesity.
And eat breakfast.
Send us your breakfast.
Sorry, I have something in my eye. But yeah, thank you guys for watching another episode of Real Breakfast Hours number 10. That's crazy.
Woo.
Hopefully be back next week for number 11.
Yes, and I'm going to have to find out if I'm going to attempt to do this with my hands or do something a little bit more creative to try to signify 11. I don't know.
Like, comment, subscribe, send us your breakfast.
Hit the bell.
Let us know what you think. If you have questions for us, or if you have something you want us to talk about, as always, let us know. in the comments down below or on my Instagram at Mickey_Gervais, which is also where you can submit breakfast. Or if you are one of our friends who has our number, obviously you can just text us.
Have you been putting your links to your socials in the description and stuff?
I forgot the past few, but I'll throw it in there.
Perfect. Thank you for watching.
Thanks. Bye.
In your mom's house, your mighty mom's house. I've been to your mom's house.
You good?
Are you?
Yeah.